Ryan, we'll start with you on this one because for the second week in a row, you have Mr. Ekwonu going #1 overall. I asked you what people thought about that last week. You said, you know what? I didn't get yelled at on Twitter because I don't think anybody was actually paying attention. So give us your reasoning here.
Yeah, so far this year, these draft conversations have been pretty collegial. No, Pete Prisco might have something to do with that. We'll see. Maybe this changes today. So Ikem Ekwonu, #1. And back in November, I started watching him, and I was actually blown away at how good he was because the conversation just in sort of Twitter draft circles was that he was going to have to move to guard. And I talked to a few teams and said, absolutely not. There's no way, no reason he should move inside. Now, whether he becomes the #1 overall pick depends on a lot of things. But the Jaguars need an offensive lineman, no doubt about it. I'd imagine that's what will be at the top of the Doug Peterson's to-do list. You could take an edge rusher here, and the question becomes, is it Ekwonu if you go offensive line, or is it Evan Neal? I know a couple teams that don't love Evan Neal first overall. They like him as a player, but he's not a Jedrick Wills, if you will, out of Alabama, where he played. Ekwonu, I think his nickname should be Dr. Pancake, because in the run game, he just runs over people consistently. And then as a pass protector, he has been incredibly efficient. I had one team tell me that he's going to be better than Christian Darrisaw, Pete Prisco's guy last year. He does need to work on his pass sets, but the athleticism and the strength is all there. All you have to do is put him out there, get him some experience. I think he can be a really, really good player. And while he's not a layup like Aiden Hutchinson at the top of the draft, he fills a huge need in Jacksonville.
Ryan, I think this draft is fascinating because years past, we've seen a lock at #1, and I truly think there's a lot of indecision and a lot of unknown about who's going to go first. So I hear you when you make a case. Totally agree with a lot of your points, especially the run blocking. I mean, he's a pancake machine that's out there, but it makes me wonder if you need to work on your pass pro, is that going to be, willing for a team for Jacksonville to take you #1? It almost feels like you have to be flawless in order for them to do it. But he comes from a really athletic background. Both of his parents were athletes. He's got great tape out there as a 3-year starter at guard and tackle, so there's flexibility there. So I like it, but I think this is one of the most unknown #1 overall picks we've had in some time.
It's pretty crazy when you think about it, too, especially considering that the premium that's put on it really tackles and protecting quarterbacks nowadays. You go back to this most recent Super Bowl. What was the difference in the second half? Well, probably 6 sacks on Joe Burrow. So I'm sure the Cincinnati Bengals wish they were able to draft a player with this sort of talent. That's for a later date, though. The reality is, Danny touched on a great point. It's not only just who's going to go #1, it's which tackle is the top tackle in this class. I think you can make a case for a lot of guys. Ikem Ekwonu has, even though he started a bunch of games, he still has a ton of upside, in my opinion. He's still a bit raw in some ways, but he's explosive. He's great run blocking. His pass protection could improve some, but I think if you look at this tackle class as a whole, you're probably going to be talking about this guy saying he's got the most upside. And that's really what NFL franchises love about players, is when they're getting to the NFL and they don't feel like they're tapped out and they still feel like they have a lot of room to grow. So Ekwonu is the player, I think, at tackle in this year's draft class that probably has that tag. So could he go #1? Sure. That the Jacksonville Jaguars see like he's the best guy for them in the future to protect Trevor Lawrence.
Somebody that Ryan has had going #1 overall. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.